lost the true essence of where our power base is, and we have allowed government substance, to really dictate how we choose to live our lives. Well, I want to say good morning to every one of you. I pray that things are well as you move deeper into this month, the month of February. Today is February 6th in the year 2022. Wow, 2622. And that 6 is critical this year because it represents the summation of 2022. I'm not going to go back into that. You can go over into the YouTube channel, and there you can find the presentation done at the beginning of the year around the 2022 and what it means. So I'm going to put that into your court this morning. I am Greg Stanton, also known as Ausar, or I'm Ausar, also known as Greg Stanton. I'm glad that you have chose to join us this morning. It's good to see those who are normally here in the Zoom room, and then those of you who have joined us this morning on the YouTube channel. I want to take a moment and just set my screen up for you so that way you could really track with me as I go into this morning's message entitled The Makings of You. So bear with me here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and see if that works here this morning. Okay, there it is. I'm going to share my screen. Share. Oop. Let me see if that, okay, I believe you should be seeing on your screen a picture. Here is the picture that we used this morning for the advertisement regarding. Thank you very much, Felicity, Minister Felicity, for helping me out with that because I couldn't see what you all see. So awesome. So this morning's message, the making of you. We're in Black History Month. And when you look at the term Black history, it says his story. That is someone else's story. And for many of us, our story is a mystery or a mystery. So I want this month to really bring home Black My Story Month. That is no longer a mystery. A mystery is that which is hidden or that which may be apparent but cannot be conceived or not being interpreted. And so this morning, I want to talk to you about the makings of you. This entire month, I've been dealing with, I've already started, or this entire year, I'm dealing with the powerful you, that is the unified two. That is the makings of you. There's more to us than that which meets the eyes. We find that most of us, when we are asked to define ourselves, to share who we are, we usually are very external in or using those things which are apparent to the natural eye. We may say, well, my name is Greg, I'm an African-American male, which is obvious, and we're going to describe ourselves by the externals, but we are more than the phenotype. That is the physical maleness. If I look at myself as just a male, or you look at yourself as simply a female, then what you find is you have defined yourself in a limiting way. For we are divine spirit beings, created to have this, to master this human experience. And so we can't just define ourselves based on what the obvious. I've been talking about Genesis chapter 1 and 27, and Genesis chapter 2 and 7. And we're going to kind of look at those again this morning because I believe that what I'm teaching is cutting edge. I can't say it's new because there's nothing new under the sun, but it's been really hidden from us. And I don't think purposely hidden from us, but it's been hidden from us because we have taken the story of creation, we have taken the Bible that has been given to us at face value. Now, I'm one that believes that the Bible is not the word of God, but it is compiled wisdom that has come down through the ages. And even the very fact that when we look at the Bible that you have, go to the first page, perhaps even look on the cover, it'll say the Holy Bible. And then it may say the King James Version. So we have to come to grips with the realization that we've been told, and actually we've been sold on the idea that the Bible and its 66 books is the compilation of God's word to us. But I want to say that the Bible and the 66 books is a great wisdom book. It's not a book to be taken literally. It's a book to be deciphered metaphysically. It's a book that's not a history book, but it's a mystery book. Matter of fact, for those who are in the room with me this morning, it's my story. And if we can really carve off the adulterated pieces, the retelling of our stories from a Western perspective, we'll get a deeper understanding and appreciation. Now, I'll give those who put together the King James Version or any other version a pass in this regard. I'm going to assume that they took the stories of old and they told them in a way that they were able to capture the essence of the story from their worldviews. That's fine. But example, the worldview of the what I would like to call the northern cradle of civilization, or the European world, sees God as a mean, angry God, because they saw God as the environment. And the environment that many of the northern cradle was influenced by was an environment that wasn't really friendly or conducive to a comfort of life. Whereas the southern cradle was the southern cradle theory of mankind's origin, which is steeped in everything's coming out of Africa. The environment was different. The environment was conducive to things growing. The environment was conducive to an abundance. There was no need to compete for the necessities of life, because they were also available for all of us. So the African saw God as a one, or the nectar, or the divine intelligence, as one who was very kind and giving towards its creation. And I just wanted to set that stage up this morning, because as we look at religion, it depends on who is giving you the story. And they are giving you the story in many cases based on their history, based on their perception, which may not be your reality. But if you take on someone else's perception, it very much becomes your reality. So I want to take liberty, as I do always inside of Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living, particularly in the month of February. I want to really drill down into the African origins of Christianity, the African influence on all humanity. I was talking to someone recently, and we were having a conversation about the enslavement. It came on the heels of, there was something that came on TV that was depicting the 40 years of the Holocaust, which is a very, now hear me and hear me well. The Holocaust was a tremendously traumatic experience to a people group. And that people group was those who identified or were identified as Jews. Jewish is not a race. It's a religious, or it's a spiritual system that a group of people follow, Judaism. And so we see that it wasn't an act of racism as much as it was an act of just stamping out a group of people based on their belief system. Not saying that to take anything away from the Holocaust, the experience that they experienced. Now, how many years did it last? It lasted 40 years. And we say that's such an atrocity. And they say it'll never happen again. Let me contrast that against what happened to our ancestors and what is still happening to the children of our ancestors. We'll just go back in recent history, a little over in 1619, where slavery was, I believe, supposed to begin. So the 200 and some odd years of slavery was the enslavement of people of African descent, the stealing them off of the continent of Africa and taking them across the Atlantic Ocean, dropping them off in the Caribbean islands and here, part of us coming to America and what we were subjected to for those 200 and some odd years, terrible. They stole our names, gave us new names, took our language, introduced us to a new language. They took our religious or spiritual belief system and gave us theirs. So many things happened to the psyche of Africans over the 200, let's say 250 years. That 250 years divided by 4, and you get that, now 4 go into that. So that's 80, like 8 generations impacted by that, versus when you look at 40 years being 1 generation impacted, the impact of the Holocaust on the Jewish community. Not that we're comparing the two, but I'm trying to contrast and see how they experienced it for 40 years, and they've made it an edict that they'll never forget. Not to the place where it's made them, they're not able to love others and operate, but we have never came to the place where we have conceptualized how much time we spent in the enslavement and the killing of the African psyche. Now, before the enslavement of the African by the Europeans, there was 1,300 years of enslavement by the Arabs. They did the same thing. They just didn't steal us off our country, out of our landmass, off of the continent, but they came in and they integrated, and they took our names or gave us other names, forced upon us a religious system. So Christianity and Islam has a similar beginnings as it relates to people of African descent or the African. It was oftentimes forced on us. And then as the passing of the generations, as it being passed down from our grandparents, our great-grandparents, down to us, and never been told the story of how we received it, we took it on and we integrated it into the essence of who we are. And so when we say we are Christians, or when we say that we follow after Islam, many times we don't realize that those are not our indigenous religious systems. And so my goal here is to not to put down anyone's faith or belief system, but to bring clarity to perhaps why we think and why we do, why we've chosen. For many of us, we didn't choose Christianity. It was handed down to us, and we didn't have any other options. And as we grew older, we just continued to find ourselves inside of the belief system of our grandparents, our great-parents, grandparents, and then we have cognitive dissonance when we try to distance ourselves from it. We just feel really bad. We have a really mental challenge in letting go of something that don't serve our highest and greatest good. Now, is that to say that Christianity and the Bible don't serve our highest and greatest good? No, I'm not saying that. But I am saying the way that it's been given to us, hook, line, and sinker, in a literal sense, does not serve our highest and greatest good. And I'm talking about people of African descent. How can you believe that the oppressor can give something to you that's going to free you? The oppressor's primary role is to keep you oppressed. And it's not the overt oppression that we need to be concerned about. I mean, yeah, but we have to be concerned about the covert expression. I'm reminded of a story I once read, a little parable about how to break an elephant. And they said if you get the elephant while it's small and you tie it to a stake, while it's small, that stake can hold it. And when it run off or try to move away from the circumference from which that particular stake and chain was holding it to, it'll get a snapback, or it'll get resistance. And ultimately, it would not go out beyond that diameter. And they found that after so many years of this experience, you can actually remove not only the chain, you can remove the stake, and that elephant would not move beyond the diameter of what was once there. And so religion has done the same thing to us. It makes us docile in a sense, because we are told to slaves obey your masters, and we're given messages about love, which is an ideal, but yet that same love that we are told to present to mankind has not been the love that has been presented to us. Even today, we're finding, here we are in 2022, we still see the covert impact of racism. Recently, there was a big to-do in the NFL about a particular coach who he's been quite successful, and there was a big to-do because he was supposed to be given the opportunity to interview for a head coach position somewhere else, and come to find out that there was not only he was not given a fair shake, but there was some other stuff going on behind the scene. So we still have this covert racism because we haven't addressed it. We've swept it under the rug. Now, that's a long lead into this morning's message, but we're in Black History Month. So I have to tell you a story. I have to kind of sell you on the fact that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Africans in America, we come in all shapes, forms, and shades. We have to also understand that we're not myopic as a people, meaning we don't all think alike. We don't all have the same life experience. And we have to make space for people to have their experience, because that's what they chose to come here to experience life as. But at the same time, we cannot continue to allow our story to be his story and our story being a mystery. Now, it's good. So this morning's message, the makings of you. When you get the opportunity, I would love for you to go to the Bible and read the story of Jeremiah 18:1 and read down. It's the potter's house story. It says, let us go to the potter's house. And I've made a couple of notes here, and it says, this is what the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Go down at once to the potter's house, and there I will reveal my message to you. So he went down to the potter's house and saw him there, the potter, working on the wheel. Now, this whole story that's in Jeremiah is a prophetic word, and it's also a metaphysical word, a metaphysical presentation of the creation of mankind. Okay, and so this morning I want to show you that what we have in the Bible, which is a relatively new document, these stories come from a place. And here, this picture here is a picture that you will find on the tombs or inside of on the walls of in certain places along the Nile Valley. And this particular picture has a lot of significance to it, because this same picture is telling the same story that you see here in Jeremiah 1:8. Now, let me break it down to you. Let me just share a little bit about it. I'm going to just touch on some things, and I'm going to encourage you to join me on Tuesday night when I go to a deeper dive inside of Transformation Tuesdays. And we're going to look at this here, and we're going to talk about this in a deeper way beyond this, which is apparent this morning. For some of you, you just see an image. You see the image of an individual sitting on a chair with the head of a ram, and you see what appears to be a female kneeling on her knees, holding two ox in her hand, its hand. And then you see on this table, which is really the potter's, the place of creation, which the table represents earth. And you see two individuals being formed. So I'm going to talk to you this morning about the making of you. And if you haven't been following or tracking with me, I have to share with you some preliminary information to help you come up to date. When we look in the book of Genesis chapter, which is the book of beginnings, and it doesn't mean the beginnings of the world 6,000 years ago, it talks about the beginnings. And when we look at Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, this is the cosmology, or it's the story of the creation of the earth and all the things that's in it. It's the forming of man and all the things that's in it. And so it's a story. And likewise, here we see depicted on the walls here in Kemet, a same story. And sometimes we make the mistake of literalizing the stories on the walls of Kemet the same way that we literalize the Bible. But what I want you to do is begin to be able to interpret the message that the images here are depicting for us. So we find in Genesis chapter 1, in verse 27, it said, let us. The singularity of God or source is not a oneness of an individual, but a group of individuals or group of entities of energies that make up a one in unison. So even here, we see an us. We see two individuals involved in the making of two individuals, which are actually one individual. Last week, we started talking about divine feminine and the divine masculine. See, we see here this image, these two images of these individuals, one sitting and one kneeling, which represents Neter, or represents what the Egyptologists incorrectly call gods, for they weren't gods and they weren't worshipped by the Kemetians or the Nile Valley civilization. They didn't worship these two images that we see here. So I want to get that clear. You will even see today when you listen to some lecturers, particularly those who call themselves Egyptologists, they will mention that the Egyptians were a group of people that had many gods. These were not gods. So what you're seeing on the screen is not gods. You are seeing a story being told of the essence of source, divine intelligence, and how it works. And it's even depicted in a more liberating way because it shows the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And you see that in the Western orientation is all about the divine masculine. It talks about God, and when you hear the term God in itself denotes a very maleness, not even a masculine, it denotes a maleness. And so it's not balanced, it's not correct. And so one of the things that I like about the Kemetic spiritual system, it represents balance. It's always bringing into play the duality of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, you know, and it's always bringing into play the light and the dark, or what some may say, the good and the bad. But they're all are one. They, you know, without both, you don't have the other. So I wanted to just show you some things here this morning. When we read in the book of Jeremiah, he says, let's go down to the potter's house. And he observed the potter with the clay that was marred in his hand. And that he observed that when imperfection began to be presented on the wheel, that the potter was just gently crush it down and reform it until it's perfect in his sight. For the word tells us, what is man that thou art mindful of him? That man is fearfully and wonderfully made. So we are perfect in our design. We are sources crowning creation. So I wanted to kind of help you understand the making of you this morning. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, we see the makings of what the African call the soul, or the Ka and the Ba. Now, so that's important. Kaaba. And for some of you all who read esoteric writings, there is the Kabbalah. So we don't even know where the Kabbalah comes from, or we have no clue that the Kabbalah is talking about a Kemetic experience, or a Kemetic disclosures of things that are hidden. So we see that man is a soul, see? And in Western society, we say man is a soul, or we say man is a spirit, just like we say God. And we really don't understand until you can break that thing down into its defined components, realizing that the defined components is only an attempt for you to understand, and overstand. And so when I speak to you this morning in regards to the necessity of you understanding who you are, not just defining yourself as a Black man or a Black woman, because then that in and of itself can be very limiting, because the essence of who you are is deeper than you just being a phenotype or a form. That's like this describing the garment and not describing what's filling up the garment. And so when we look at this depiction here, it represents the potter with the creation on the wheel. So let me just break this down for you. I'm going to give you an overview that we will review on Tuesday and go into the deeper understanding. So to the average eye, look, let me see if I can see can you guys see my cursor moving around? Minister Felicity, if you can see my cursor moving around, just go ahead and type it there in the chat, so that way I know that my cursor is being being seen, so I can, okay, so you cannot see the cursor. So let me see here. How did I get it to go bigger like that before? Can you see that thing moving around? I'm moving it around up by the head of the figure that's sitting on the chair. Okay, so we can't see that, so I'm sorry. There should be a way for me to have a pointer. Let me see here right quick. 1 second here, guys. Let me see if I can find that pointer image to be used when I'm on. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna mark it up as I go. This way, you should be able to see. Oh, there's my mouse. There it is. Now, can you see it now, Felicity? I'm circling around the head. I see it, but it's not. But I don't know if that was before. Let's see it again. Can somebody type if you can see this? The cursor moving around on the screen. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Glad to see you guys tracking with me. It's very small, but at least you can see it, so you'll know where what I'm talking about. So here, I want to first start with the image that is seated here, and this is Khnum, K-H-N-U-M. The image represents Khnum, and Khnum is and then this image here would be, so this is the divine masculine of the creator. This is the divine feminine of the creator. They are working together to create the divine masculine and the divine feminine on the potter's wheel. Many times when you see this same image depicted, you will see the individual who's sitting on the chair and the individual who is kneeling, but you will only see one individual on the wheel. So the reason why I pulled this picture, because it depicts in its truest sense what's behind that. And so we can't just look at what comes to us in face value. We need to begin to look behind what is observable to find that which is really being stated here. So a couple of things I want to pull out. So you may say, why does this image have the head of a ram? So the Bible also, many of us are not aware of, is an astrotheological book, astrotheology. That is, through the understanding of the zodiacs and the ages, you get an understanding of what is being stated in the story. So this story tells me that man initially was created in the age of Aries. Aries is the spring. So spring represents the beginning. So this aligns with astrologically the creation story or the cosmology story of the Cometians put things in its proper perspective. This is truly in the beginning. Now, an age lasts for approximately 2,160 years. There's 12 ages to a great year. So that is, there's 12 ages that the clock ticks through before you go through all 12 signs, giving you a great age or a great year, which is known as a 20, the great year, which is usually defined as 26,000 years. Now, one of the things you must understand that in order to see the age of Aquarius, you must be around at least 26,000 years. That is to see it come back around. So no one person probably was there around 26,000 years, but someone created this scene, and then 26,000 years later, this image, the Aries was in the horizon, and it stays in the horizon for 2,160 years. Now, I'm introducing you to the concept of astrotheology, because if you don't understand astrotheology, you will take some of the things that are in the Bible literally. Example, when Moses came down, which I believe was Akhenaten, which the Egyptians don't, not the Egyptologists don't believe it, but the Kemetologists, those who study Kemet, who put things in proper perspective, not entrenched in trying to prove the Bible is right, but are looking for history, found that it is when Moses, so don't take my word for it, but do some study. So let's use Moses as an example. When Moses came down from the mount, top of the mountain, he was upset with the people because they had created or took the golden earrings and all the gold and formed a calf, a bull. Calf is representative of a bull. So it formed so you got the bull, which is the divine masculine, and then you have the male form, and then you have the calf, which is the cow, which is the female form. So here's we see he comes down, and they recreated what is looked at as Hathor, or the cow, and he was upset with them because they were being prepared to go into a new age, just like we are being prepared to move out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, but people slip back to what's familiar, just like the children of Israel in this story slip back into the worship or the acknowledgement as the calf as the major zoo type, or the bull, the age of Taurus. Taurus was the major bull type, just like during the time of the historical Jesus, the zoo type was the fish. That's why he said, I will make you fishers of men. And then we see that now we are moving to the next age, because the disciples say, when will we know when the shifting of this age will come? He said, you will find a woman in the street carrying a urn of water. Water represents Holy Spirit. Follow her into that house. What house was she going into? She was coming and going into the house of Aquarius. So we are in the Aquarian age. Now, for the sake of time, I can't go into the totality of that, but everything is falling apart, because under the Piscean age is where we had the strengthening and the unfolding of governments, belief systems, but everything that came forth under the Piscean age, which represented groupthink, represented the masses, all those things are coming apart, because we are moving to a new age of the oneness of being, the oneness of all of us individually, and at the same time, the oneness of us as I am my brother's keeper. But I can't keep my brother unless I'm keeping myself first. So it's an age of responsibility. So the age of the Aquarian age is an age of responsibility, of age of accountability. Now back to the image at hand. So we see Kanum sitting here on the chair at the potter's wheel, and you see two individuals. So back to the head first. So this originally happened in the age of Aquarius. The age of Aries. That's why it has a ram head. And so we have to be able to depict and interpret the images. Is not saying that God, divine intelligence, is seen as an Aries or as a ram. But during this age is when man was originally created. It was the age of in the age of what we will call the age of Aries, or the season of spring. So that's natural. That's a natural genesis for things to be created, for things to come forth in the spring. Now, Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 talks about the creation of man. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7 talks about the form of man. Okay, so you have man created and then man formed. In God, all happens at the same time. So Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 is slowing the story down that we can comprehend it. So here I want to show you on this wheel is the Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And God created he them, both male and female. Now, I want to break something down. I want to share something with you this morning. So in Genesis 1, it appears to be God is talking about one person, but when you read it and you see he's talking about two people or more than one, he's talking in a plural sense, not a singular sense. He says, let us make them. In Genesis chapter 2, we see the breaking down, the slowing down, the story being told in a natural Genesis way, unfolding way, what some would call is even showing the formation of first man and then the formation of woman from the side of man. That's still a story that can't be taken literally. If God took woman from the side of man, why did it have to be from his rib versus the right side of his brain, or the side of his brain? I believe it's more of a pulling up from the side of the brain versus the side of the rib, because women, if you understand about science as we know it, is more right-brained than men, which are more left-brained. Now, the creative brain is more of the woman, that side of the woman. The more of the realism, the analytical side is the man. But we are whole brain. That is, we all have the analytical side and the creative side, but the story is just breaking it down. So I wanted to just share that with you. So we're talking right here about Genesis 1 and 26 and 27. On this wheel, you see depicted two individuals. You see, even though it's depicting a spirit, it's showing the divine masculine. And the way we know that it's the divine masculine, because first of all, you can't see spirit, okay? But we are knowing that God formed man first as a spirit being. And so we see the phenotype image here, in that you see the phallus of the male here in this picture. Another word for phallus is penis. And then we see in this front image, you see what appears to be the womb, the woman. So you see this is divine feminine. So you have divine masculine and the divine feminine broken down in this image, which the Egyptians understood. Although they appear to be two, they are one. Just as it appears that this individual sitting here and this individual sitting here are two, but they are one. And though it may appear to be in this image, four individuals depicted, the Egyptians were able to conceptualize that it all represented one. And so what we have to come to grips with when we say the oneness of being, it first starts not with the oneness of you being one with God, but you being one with yourself. We talked about last week that we are divine masculine and divine feminine. But because of our containers which we find ourselves in, we over-identify, or we allow our physical selves to dictate how we show up. So I'm showing up very maleness, very male in orientation. And because of that, I naturally align with and run the divine, or the divine masculine energy. Likewise for a female, they're running the divine feminine energy. But at the same time, if we really want to be what we've been created to be as divine beings, we have to step away from our containers and step inside of what we contain. We contain divine masculine and divine feminine energy. Now, here's something else I wanted you to walk away with this morning. It says in Genesis chapter 2, it says he formed man and he breathed on man and he became a living soul. In the English language, we use words like spirit, we use words like soul, we use words like God, but they do a poor job of depicting what is really being spoken to, or what message is being presented. So on this potter's wheel, we see two which are actually one, but we see two that are broken down that we can understand. Inside of the one is two. And the two that we're looking at right here is what's known as the Egyptians call the Ba and the Ka. The Ba and the Ka, where we will say we are a soul or we are a spirit. It'll help you to understand that you are a Ba and a Ka. So let me first start with the Ka. The Ka is so God is source, divine intelligence is Ka. And then when he created us out of the same substance of what it is, Ka. So just like a couple of weeks ago, I introduced you to the idea of the lowercase I and the uppercase I. And that as the lowercase I decreases, the larger I, the capital I, increases. And in that metaphor, the capital I represents the Spirit of God, represents divine intelligence. The lowercase I represents the microcosm of the divine intelligence. And what we are moving to is understanding that when we were created after its likeness, our true creative self, our true self is our spirit self, or a better word for spirit is your Ka, your consciousness. Okay, so the Ka, your awareness of the God in you. The God, no, let me reframe that. Your awareness of the divine essence in you. You define yourself by what's in the container, not by the container. The Ka never dies. The spirit never dies. So the Egyptians had an understanding that you have a Ka, which is the spirit essence of who you are, which is an energy which is depicted as divine masculine and a divine feminine energy make up your Ka. And so I said Ka Ba. So not only did you have a Ka, but you have a Ba. The Ba is the physical form of the Ka, which is oftentimes represented by a winged bird with the head of a person. And the Ba is, okay, so all of us, our Kas are the same. All of us come from the same source. There's no difference between my Ka and the Ka of Minister Felicity or Myrna or Cheryl or Trinity or Angela or my mom, anyone that's on the face of the earth or anyone in this room right now, we are all have the same Ka. We are a oneness of being. That, what do I mean by that? We all are made from the same essence, spirit beings. But we like to take that word spirit, which is a word that is limited, and we now break it down. See, the Cometians had a spiritual science. They broke down this thing so they can really understand it. So we all have a spirit. Even the most diabolical person that you know has the spark of God in them. The only problem is that that spark of God is not being able to shine forth because it's cloaked inside of their life experience. It's cloaked inside of their the physical body. That physical. Now, so man has. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, 27, it's totally focused on the spiritual essence, or the ka and the ba of creation. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, is talking about the formed, or it's talking about what the Egyptian is talking about, the body. And the word for the body is, some say djed, D-J-E-D, and some say it's khat, K-H-A-T. We'll look at that in a deeper way. So it talks about the body. But then the body is a soul, but it's not living until it gets the breath of life, the spirit inside of it. And when the spirit comes inside of it, it takes up form. Now, your ba is more of your. So we're going to break the ka and ba, the ka down. The ka has so the ka represents the essence of God, or the essence of the divine source that resides in us. And all of us has the same ka. But how we show up using that ka is influenced by our ba. So your ba is like your personality, is unique to you. So all the spirits are unique, authentic to the individual, but inside of each authentic being is the ka, which is the spirit of God. I hope that's, and how your ka shows up is influenced by your ba. Now I'm going to go deeper into the ka and the ba, the kaba, which represents your created essence, your, another way of saying it, your spirit, which comes forth as a soul. Now, why did they have, we're going to understand, we'll come away understanding why the Cometians believed in being born again, or life after death. They believed in reincarnation, that you were going to come back. And we're going to go into that, because if we really reincarnate every night, when you go to sleep, you die in essence. And when you rise, you wake up a new person. The only reason why you keep showing up as the old person is because you keep thinking in old thoughts. You're staying in an old environment and old things. So you keep having the same thing. But if you know how to take yourself into the sleep state and rise intentionally and going in the direction you want to go, and not just go on autopilot, you will see that you can create a new you every day. So to wrap up what I shared with you this morning, I'm introducing you to the concept that we find in Jeremiah chapter 18 about the potters and potter's wheel. That concept comes from this creative story on how the creator, imaged here with the ram's head, depicting that during the age of Aries, during the age, or during the spring equinox, man was formed. And man is a spirit, and that spirit is known Ka. The Ka is that part of us that comes from divine intelligence, the divine being, the creative being, Mother, Father, God. And the Ka has a double, and that double is the Ba. The Ba is what makes you your unique expression in the earth of the same spirit. God desires to dwell in us and to see things from our perspective, to experience things from our perspective. And here we see the divine feminine aspect holding two ankhs. And that word ankh is an acrostic. Each letter means something, which I will share with you what the ANKH means. We say ankh, but the ankh depicts four distinct things that you should become familiar with. So that's my message this morning. I'm sharing with you the makings of you. So I'm going to stop the share. So that may be a lot for you, I know, but that's why I record it. So you can listen again. And that if it's something that you just cannot fathom, cannot believe, you can do the research. You can not take what I have told you at face value or hook, line, and sinker. It says, study to show yourself approved, a workman who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. So what I want to do before we go into the green room to have a conversation, perhaps a brief conversation this morning, I want to again give those of you who participate in Serendipity Sunday the opportunity to be a blessing to the ministry. If something has been said that has been uplifting and encouraging to you, I'm going to ask that you sow a seed into this ministry. You can go to Oasis Spiritual Center, oasisspiritualcenter.com, and go over to the giving tab. And once you go there, you'll find that there's various platforms that you can choose to get your gift to the ministry. I want to thank all of you in advance that are sowing seeds, not because of need, not because there's a level of greed being depicted, but because you know that your giving prospers you. All right. So what I want to do is open up the back room. If you have an insight, a question that you want to put out there, go ahead and raise your hand or just pop on. If you can pop on, I will give you the mic. Awesome. Are the Tuesday sessions recorded as well? Yes, they are. Now, I want to thank you. This series, more time, this requires more time to access. Yes, you're correct. I'm a teacher, I'm not a preacher. And so I give you what I can within the time that I can. I introduce you to things. Sometimes I introduce them just so you will be motivated to explore. I'm not trying to tell. I'm not trying to sell. I'm just trying to tell. So it's up for you to, not just you, Myrna, but anyone who wants to know is to do the research. Don't take what people tell you as truth, as solid. You need to search that matter out for yourself. So Tuesday nights, yes. Now, what I am going to do after this month, Tuesday nights will only be open for those who are partners with the ministries. We don't have members, we have partners. Well, you say, why are you closing it off where everybody can't get it? Because everybody can't get what I'm saying. Unless you are aligned with this ministry and you're supportive of the ministry, it's certain things you're just not going to have access to. And so Tuesday nights, if you are part of the partnership, and now if we're going to talk a little bit more about partnership, what that means, what that looks like, it's not a one-sided relationship. For too many people are watching what I say, they are gleaning the truths that I have, but they're not in relationship with me. Number of people watch the YouTube channel. I don't know who they are, but people are watching. And I want to make sure that if you're watching me, why are you watching anonymously? So in Tuesday nights, you can't be anonymous. I want to know who I'm talking to. Just as well as you know who's talking to you, it's only fair for me to know who I'm talking to. So yeah, Tuesday nights. Don't look like anybody got there any questions. And I'm gonna leave it right there. Maybe you're just mulling over what's been shared. Maybe it's just so new that you just don't know what to ask or don't want to appear ignorant or whatever. I was ignorant of a lot of these things, and there's a lot of things I'm still ignorant of. But this one thing I do. I search the matter out. And as I expand what I know and as I grow, my ignorance decreases and my knowingness